All right, everybody, we are about to go live here at Soper Creek Wildlife Rescue. We're going to give it one more minute for all of you guys to join in and watch. We've got a very unique presentation today. We're actually going to be taking you inside our Wildlife Rehabilitation Center to meet lots of animals. So, I'm going to give everyone about 1 minute or so, and then our adventure is going to begin. You know what? I'm not even going to wait a minute because I'm too anxious to show you guys exactly what we've got going on here at the Wildlife Center. Are you ready? This is the first time ever anyone has seen inside of our intake building. Let's go for a walk. So this is our new intake building. We fundraised for about 1.5 years in order to get it. It's actually a converted school or a portable classroom. And in here, this is our main room. Oh, Nicole! Hey, how are you?
Fantastic! How's everybody out there?
Are you guys having a good time? So as you guys want to talk and chat with us, remember, feel free, ask all the questions that you like. They actually pop up here on the screen for me, and we can kind of go from there. So remember, keep those comments going. Nicole has a very special little guy that came in. He came in about 3 or 4 days ago. Does anyone have any ideas what type of animal this little guy is? He's got a weird little tail. He kind of looks like a dog. A lot of people think, or actually the lady that found him thought that she was a fox. But in fact, this is an actual baby coyote. Now, the story here with little Fuddy, our buddy, is that a woman found him when he was about a day old. And she didn't know what to do with him, so for 5 weeks she was able to care for him. And you know what? We all have the best intentions and we want to help wildlife. But the best thing to do when you find a sick or injured animal is contact your local wildlife center. There's lots all over Ontario that would be able to help you. Unfortunately, this little guy wasn't given the proper food that he needed. So if you take a good look up close, his fur isn't really the way it should be. It's kind of scrawny and patchy. It's not a full coat. His ears aren't fully developed, and that's probably because when she found him, he was very, very cold. He's a lot smaller in size than what he would normally be, and that's because he wasn't getting the proper food. Diet here at the Wildlife Center is extremely important for animals because we need to make sure that they are big and strong when going back out into the wild. So he had a great diet of bananas, avocados, and goat's milk, and he's a carnivore, and I'm sure everyone here knows exactly what carnivore means. It means you eat Nicole's hair. So this little guy actually eats raw meat, and he still gets milk because he's only about 5 weeks old. What are you doing? Is that delicious?
This is the best toy ever.
Now at the Wildlife Center, it's pretty scary when animals first arrive. So lots of the time we use our eyes, we use other techniques than handling the animal at first, because we need to be able to make sure that we're providing them with the proper food. So we're using these tools to be able to help us identify them. Then if we look at him, we can see coyotes have a very good sense of hearing, and that shows off in his huge ears.
Okay.
And he's got beautiful big eyes that are situated at the very front of his face. And that is the case for almost all predators. He's got these great big teeth which are holding onto Nicole's beautifully washed hair. And he's got these really cool claws. Now dogs, this is your new barber. Yeah, that's right. Quarantine haircut. So this little guy right here, if you look at his paws, they're very different than a cat's paws in that they don't retract. So that's a good way when you're outside walking around. If you see a paw print that has nails on it, that likely means that it is a dog species or a canine. And so it's a really good indicator of when you're out enjoying the wild, especially at Blue Mountain Village, you're able to see all the different animals that are out in the hills. So why do we say goodbye to our dear friend Fuddy? Bye, buddy, our Fuddy. See ya! We've got so many more animals to show you. All right, so let's see what else is going on here. Down below. Oh, okay, let's go into our little turtle pond first. All of these turtles were actually kept illegally as pets, except for one, and I'm going to show you her in a minute. So right down here, without the glare of the water, we have the big guy. That's Wilber. Wilber was kept as a pet for about 10 years, and if you take a really good look, you can tell that the edges of his shell actually curve up instead of going down like would happen in a normal wild turtle. And that's because the tank that he was living in was just simply too small. As he would swim around, the sides of his shell would constantly hit against the glass, and that caused the deformity, or one of the deformities in his shell. He loves to sink underneath the waterfall. And the other thing is nutrition. A lot of people think that having turtles as pets are really easy. You can just throw them some food, but that's not the case. They require a lot of different vitamins and minerals in order to maintain a healthy shell. That shell is literally the home on their back. Their spine is infused to the shell itself, so diet is extremely important for all turtle species. Now the sad thing is, all of the species that we have here in Ontario are threatened or endangered species. That means that there aren't very many left in the wild, including ones like this little lady right here. This is Nevel, and she just came to us about 2 weeks ago. She's actually missing the majority of both of her front flippers and the majority of her tail. So in the wild, she wouldn't be able to do all the important things that she needs to. She couldn't bury or dig the sand to lay her eggs, and she couldn't even do the mating ritual for the map turtles, or sorry, the painted turtles. And that's where they kind of touch each other's fingers at the front and they do this crazy finger dance. It's kind of neat. Oh, there's our goldfish going along in the background. Wilbur's being a ham. So again, Wilber is a red-eared slider, which you can buy as a pet. Then we have Nevel here. She is our Midland painted turtle. And then we have another painted turtle right here. Now he was being kept as a pet, so that's why he's with us. And after about 6 years, she realized that he was a native species. So he lives here with his fish friends in this beautiful little enclosure where they get to eat lots of different things. Turtles eat not only plant material, but they actually really like to eat a lot of worms and fish and all of that fun stuff. So they are considered to be omnivores. Oh, I think I heard Nicole sneak in. Now, for anyone that was watching last time, you met Echo. And Echo was a huge, great horned owl. This is a lot smaller, and this is not a great horned owl. Does anyone have any ideas as to who or what kind of animal this may be? Well, let's take a couple of hints. Hi, buddy. He's got these really, really long ears at the top of his head, and he's pretty small, and I would hope that the long ears kind of give it away. Even though I'm going to ruin this for all of you, they aren't ears, they're just feather tufts. This is Neville, and he is a long-eared owl. I was trying to give you the hint. There you go. Oh my goodness, he's so sweet. Now, he isn't a rehabilitation animal, and he's here right now because when he came to us in November, he actually was a very young owl learning how to fly. And what had happened is he flew directly into the front of someone's truck, and he was stuck literally in the grill. And the gentleman was smart enough to take him to our veterinarian, who was able to then do an emergency surgery on him and amputated his wing. So obviously an owl with only one wing cannot go back into the wild. Let's take a look. The other really cool thing about him, I don't know if you guys can see this really clearly, but the camouflaging on their feathers actually represents the different tree species that they can camouflage in, which is kind of neat as well. Now, owls have a great sense of hearing. but long-eared owls have the best or most sensitive type of hearing. And this little face disc around, see the feathers around his face that create like a little disc? He has ears on either side, which are kind of uneven. They're just literally holes in the side of their head. And that allows them to have a great sense of hearing to the point that they don't have to use their eyes at night when they're hunting. They just have to use their ears, which is kind of cool. Nicole, do you want to say anything else about our friend Neville, or maybe all the hard work that you and Leah put into taking care of him?
Oh, Neville. So he might have hit his head just a little bit when he had his accident, and he forgot how to be an owl. So for a couple of months, we had to hand feed him every day, making sure that he got the proper nutrition that he needed. But that meant a lot of time put into this little guy with our tweezers in our hands, putting piece by piece into that little mouth until one day, all of a sudden, he got it again and was able to start eating on his own, pretty much out of the blue. It was fantastic. It was so rewarding to see him finally remember to be that owl that he used to be. And we're very happy that he was able to start to feed himself again and gain a little bit of that owl nature back.
Now, that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand. When animals come into our wildlife center, it's not as simple, you're in for a day and you're out the next day. The majority of our patients actually stay with us for 4 months. So when people drop off a baby squirrel, that squirrel's with us until they're 16 weeks of age, and they go through different stages of rehabilitation. So when they first come in, they can act as a neonate, then they go into a juvenile stage, and then they finally go outside where they have to teach us or show us that they can actually be that animal, which is very important. So we're going to say goodbye to our friend Neville, and I'm going to show you another ex-pet before we head into the deep oceans of our intake building. Goodbye, Nicole and Neville. Okay. Now I have to tell you, I'm not the biggest fan of this next creature because they tend to scare me. And yesterday we were actually doing the mulch and we had a whole bunch of garter snakes approaching us. Is this a garter snake? Can anyone tell me what type of snake this guy is? I know, he's nice and there curled up. I'm going to pull him out in a minute, if I can get this plant out of the way. There we go. He's actually a ball python, and his name is Fluffy. Hey, Fluffy. Can I stick my hand in here? How are you, my friend? How are you? Oh, my goodness gracious. There, I'm just going to move it like this so you guys can see his beautiful body. Now, our friend Fluffy, and yes, guys, I know he's not Fluffy, but that's the name that he came with. A lady actually turned him over to us because she was living in downtown Toronto where they have an exotic animal bylaw, and ball pythons are considered to be an exotic animal. She used to wear Fluffy for over 10 years as a necklace or as a bracelet, just matching her outfit every single day. Until one day, her landlord saw her and informed her about the bylaw. So Amanda made the smart decision, because it wasn't in the best interest of Fluffy, to bring him here. And that's kind of the one thing that I really want to point out. A lot of people think that these animals make good pets, whether it's a turtle or a snake. What you need to do is really do your homework, do your research, find out if in your community those type of animals that you're hoping to have are allowed, how long these animals live, because at the end of the day, we are looking to do what's best for that animal. And that if that means that they're not in our house, that they are, at a wildlife center or living somewhere where they can get the proper food and everything, that's what we want to do. And that's where we want to see all of our animals. Oh, Fluffy, he's super cute. Now, ball pythons come in a whole bunch of different colors. This is the typical color morph that you're going to see. I've seen them come in white and red. We have one that's a buttermilk color as well. So they're, in the pet trade, they have them in so many different colors. Now, what our issue is with snakes that aren't native to Ontario, when people don't want them as pets anymore, they release them into the wild. And they're able to actually compete with our native species, taking away lots of valuable resources for them. So again, we need to make sure we're doing our homework when we're looking at finding out what pet it is, instead of just getting bored of it one day and releasing it into the environment, because it really does a lot of damage to the world that they live in as well. Oh, hello, Fluffy. You gonna come out to see me? I know. I don't have any food for you. Now, the really cool thing is if you take a look, they actually are able to detect a lot of things using that tongue of theirs. Hi, I'm gonna close it. See you later. All right. Now, we are going in to the room. I haven't showed anyone back here before. See, it even says, exam room, do not enter. But I'm gonna take you guys in here because that's what I do. I break the rules. Just don't tell anybody. Now, this is our exam room. I know, it's not very big, it's not very important, but in this room we learn a lot of information about our animals. You can see we have all of our equipment handy because the less we can handle an animal, the better it is going through the rehabilitation process. Lots of times animals can exhibit behaviors that aren't necessarily normal for them, and it's just a matter of stress. Remember, they've never been in a car before. They've never heard music, peeking little faces in at them. So it's pretty scary coming into the wildlife center. So in this room, we actually allow them to decompress for about 20 minutes before we ever start our physical exam, where we check their heart rate, we check their breathing, we check for physical injuries, and we have all of our medication and everything that we need down there. Plus, we have had this oxygen tank donated for us. And the reason that this oxygen tank is so important is because it provides a lot of seriously or critically ill animals exactly what they need to make it through. Now, there's nothing really else cool going on in here. We don't have our microscope running or anything. So this final room, dun 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 dun. Oh, look at that! There's Nicole. Hey, Nicole.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, good. So I'm going to explain some stuff over here in a minute, but let's talk to Nicole about, what is this?
Oh, this guy? This is my friend Simon. And Simon doesn't actually have much to say, but I'll talk for him instead.
Can I just ask a question, Nicole?
Yeah.
What's going on with Simon's eyes? They're really, really white.
Oh, well, you see, Simon here, he gets white eyes right before he's about to shed. And that seems really weird. But snakes, even their eyes are covered with special scales, and we call them their eye caps. And Simon's actually go really dark before he sheds. And it's just that layer of skin getting ready to shed off and be fresh and new again. So every time he can't just stretch because he's not made of the same kind of materials that we are. He's covered in scales. And scales aren't stretchy, they're pretty hard. He's not slimy, like a lot of people think he is. He's very dry and smooth, but he has to be able to grow, and the only way to do that is to actually shed that top layer and grow a new one.
That's pretty neat. Now, doesn't their cousin, the eastern hognose, do something really neat?
Oh my gosh, they have one of the coolest defenses, or maybe a little bit of a silly defense. These guys are pretty cute, and some people might think that they're scary, but if he came across you in the wild and you scared him, he would boop you with his little snoot. You see that little snoot right there? Really, really fast to try to show us or think that he bit us. But he didn't. He just booped you really fast. And if that doesn't scare you away, he rolls over, shows his tummy, and plays dead. How scary is that? Oh. Not at all. So we've got nothing to worry about when we come across our hog-nosed friends out in the wild. People, that is how they defend themselves against us.
You know what? I know another animal that also plays dead that we weren't planning on doing for this show, but maybe should we bring her out?
Or should we just like show?
should we sneak up on her? Because okay, so does anyone here know what an animal that is in Ontario plays dead?
Well, eastern hognose.
Okay, not the hognose snake, Nicole. We already been there. Okay, someone has to answer this because it's super cute. And we have to be quiet.
Looks like she's doing it now.
Yeah, she does.
Sleeping.
Okay, so we're gonna open this. Right over here. Got it?
Sure do.
Okay. I am sneaking up Claire. This is Claire, the opossum, and she's not playing dead. She's actually just sleeping. And the reason that she's in our intake building, she's not a rehab animal. She's actually one of our programming animals, and she's been with us for about a year now. When Claire first came to us, she was about the size of your hand. And a lot of people think, you know, women and children, we're compelled to save the world and we have to help everything that is small. But being a small opossum, you have all of your defense mechanisms. You have everything that you need in order to be or act like a large opossum. But the problem is this had actually happened in the middle of the winter, and she was very cold, and she'd probably hit her head very, very badly. She had frostbite on her tail, so we had to take her in and do surgery on her cool tail. Hi, baby. So now her tail can't perform all the functions that it would normally do. Hi! And she can't walk in a straight line. She can only walk in a circle, which is kind of strange. It's due to the neurological damage that happened when she must have fallen down from a pretty high height. Now, the other really neat thing about opossums is that they're not native to Ontario. They are from the southern states, and as the import and export trade is increased, ta-da, we have opossums now all across Canada. So if you look at them, their ears are paper thin, and their little tiny hands look like they're wearing gloves, and of course they're not wearing any gloves. So they're not really adapted to living in all 4 seasons. There aren't a lot of places in the world that actually have 4 full seasons like we do here in Ontario. So they're looking for other ways to adapt or find a home in those winter months. I get lots of phone calls from people finding them underneath their sheds, on their garages, maybe even in a barn that you have. The cool thing about opossums is they are not aggressive animals. They're not going to chase after you. They also have one of the lowest core body temperatures of any mammal. So that means they can't actually carry diseases like rabies or distemper. So it's kind of neat. And the last thing that I'm going to tell you about our friend Claire is that there's a special protein inside of their blood that scientists are doing research on, because it can act as an anti-venom or an antidote for venomous snake bites around the world. Right now, they're up to about 10 different species that they're able to save. And scientists are also doing a lot of research on them because they can't get a lot of diseases for cancer as well, which is kind of neat. So who would have thought the awesome opossum is even awesomer? All right, Clarabelle, why don't we say good night? I want to show some people some really cool things over here in the incubator. All right, so I'm going to close this up. And again, because she can't climb properly, she can't walk in a straight line, that's why she's in this building where she can, we can regulate and monitor her to make sure that she's safe in all of the environments, because the last thing that we want is to get her hurt. This little section over here is for animals that can't regulate their own temperature. So we have a variety of different incubators. Some hook up to oxygen, other ones hook up to humidifiers. Some are specifically for birds, like this one in the middle here. We use a lot of the time for birds, depending on what type of species. And there's one right over in the corner that we've closed off. And the reason that we've closed it off is because there's some critters inside that I want to show you. But more importantly, these type of critters would like to start flying into the plexiglass and can severely hurt themselves. That's right. Oh, hello. Can anyone tell me what type of bird this is? Someone's got to know. Someone's got to be a baseball fan out there that can tell me who this is. Can I do this on the camera at the same time? Oh, I sure can. Oh, look at me, I'm multi-talented while I wait for someone to respond. Come on, peeps. You can tell me. It is a baby blue jay. You know that 90% of the birds that come into our wildlife center come in because of cat attacks or animal attacks. This little guy actually came in this morning and he was attacked by a dog. And I guess the mom and dad were dive bombing the dog, and the dog had it in its mouth. And we were lucky that there weren't any punctures or any wounds, anything like that. So now he is here with us, just to make sure that he has everything that he needs. That's just the humidifier. Don't worry, it'll shut off in a moment. There we go. Oh, and now he's done. Now, when animals or birds come into the wildlife center, we have to create a special nest for them. Hi! We have to create them a special nest because the nest in the wild has lots of really important jobs or responsibilities. They keep babies warm, they keep them safe. Hello? Would you like some? No? Maybe? Oh, I thought you were going to eat because you were calling at me. So it has a lot of different jobs and responsibilities. So we make sure that that security is often given here as well. Oh, now you open your mouth, you silly bum. So we put a little bumper pad to give him some security and stability, because when you're this tiny, it's really important that you have the neck support and you have the support that you need. And to be honest, this little bird has not been perching ever until right now. His eyes were closed 2 days ago. He was inside there with a very floppy neck, and I'm happy to see that he's getting big and strong. Birds have a metabolism that's about 18 times faster than that of a mammal's. So both of these birds, if you take here, we have a timer that goes off every 20 minutes to make sure that we're feeding these guys exactly what they need. So that's kind of neat. I'm going to show you how we feed this little bird because I know he's always hungry. We have a special formula. Again, it's very species dependent. And will you eat? Are you hungry? Oh, here you go. A little guy. Would you like a little bit more? Oh dear. So little drip by little drip, we feed him every 20 minutes from the time the sun goes up until the time the sun goes down. It's very important. Again, remember I said how fast their metabolism is. And because within 21 days, the majority of birds are off flying off on their own. They've left their nest at that point. So they've got to eat as much calories as they can. Most humans try to restrict their calories, not in the bird world. Now, the other really neat thing about birds, or I guess not so neat, but different, is that a lot of people call our wildlife center and they are looking or finding maybe a baby bird on the ground that kind of looks like this guy here, and he can't fly. There is no Disney when birds leave their nest, like we all think, they just take a leap of faith and they fly off into the sunset. That's not actually the case of what happens. They fall from their nest, or sometimes they're even pushed, and then from the ground or from a bush, they'll learn to get their muscles. So they'll be constantly flapping their wings. Their parents come down every once in a while to offer them food, but this is a stage in their life where their parents are saying, hey, you're going to be on your own really soon, so let's start getting you flying. And then after a couple of days on the ground, then they're able to start flying again. So again, if you see a bird that looks like an adult but it can't fly, chances are it's a fledgling, so you want to leave it exactly where you are unless you can see a visible injury on it. Okay, let's put these guys away. Timer for another 20 minutes from now. Back up, and the reason that it's so important to cover it up is so they don't start pecking at the glass. And remember, we don't want these animals to be used to being around people at all. Oh, Nicole's going to bring out these guys. We have a special guest. Now, these are actually our animal ambassadors. Let's see. She's got to find them first.
They might be small, but they're mighty.
They are mighty. Mighty, mighty. And actually, they're pretty stinky. Does anyone know a type of turtle that could be stinky? It smells just like a skunk. What if I told you they are super small and they're endangered, and it starts with an M? Ma. It's a turtle. One of the 8 species that we have here in Ontario. Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about this cutie patootie?
This is my friend Fred. Of course, we do have Fred and Wilma who live in their enclosure together. But this is one of our smaller species of turtle in Ontario. So these guys, the average, they only get to be about 10 centimeters. And the longest one in the whole record book was a whopping 11 centimeters long. So these guys are almost full size, even though they'll fit into the palm of my hand. And they have a nickname, that musk that they can produce. Scared or nervous, smelling just like a skunk, is pretty stinky. So their other nickname is actually a stink pot. But just like a snapping turtle, they have a very strong jaw and a very sharp mouth. So we definitely need to be careful when we're around these guys. And just like all the other turtles in Ontario, they are a species at risk. So unfortunately, due to poor habitat conditions and our changing environment, our turtles in Ontario are not doing very well. And all species are now on that species at risk list. So that's not what we want to see. But hopefully, by helping out some of these little guys and getting some back out into the wild, that we'll be able to help that population get bigger again. Because wouldn't it be really cool to come across one of these guys in your own backyard?
It would be awesome. There's so many cool turtles that we have in Ontario that not a lot of people know about. So it's a matter of connecting people with nature again. So when you're at Blue Mountain Village, you want to make sure you're walking around and you're seeing so many different types of turtles. I mean, I've been out there. We actually go out with Soper Creek all the time. And when we're there, we always make sure that we're hiking the trails and looking around, because the amount of wildlife that you can see is fantastic. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience being out in the wild. People don't do that anymore. They don't appreciate the world around them, and it's a great opportunity there to be able to do that.
Oh, look.
He's so cute.
Slowly starting to come out of that shell.
He's like, oh, you guys aren't so bad.
They do
I didn't stink yet.
Yeah, they do have quite a long neck. We often see these guys. They like to hang out at the bottom of their enclosure, and they would hang out at the bottom of a pond or a stream. And they just stick out their nose so that they're able to breathe from in the water. But these guys just got a brand new home recently, and it's been really cool to see them explore and to be swimming around, doing all... Look at his little face coming out.
All right, Mr. Fred, we're going to say goodbye. Well, Nicole gets the next animal. I'm going to sneak over here and show you something neat. Okay, so about a week ago, we took in these little guys right over here. Hello, everybody. How are you? What is this? This is our pouch of look at that one. He's like making weird faces. A pouch of opossums. Now these guys are not programming animals. They will bite you. I'm not even going to try to stick my hand in there. But you can see those sharp little teeth. There are 5 little babies sleeping in here. Now I mentioned earlier, because I was you guys them, is that Lucas says hi to the turtle. The turtle says, Fred says hello back. The cool thing about opossums is when they're born, they're the size of a jelly bean. And they climb up the mom, they go into the pouch, and that's where they latch on, and they drink drip by drip 24 hours a day. And that's because they are born without any type of jaw muscles. So when they come into the Wildlife Center, we can't obviously feed them drip by drip. What we have to do is carefully tube feed them. And that's where you can insert a tube directly into their stomach to make sure that they are getting the food that they need. In other words, they don't have the actual muscles to suck on a bottle like any of the other animals. Whether it's a raccoon or a chipmunk or a squirrel, they can suck on a bottle where these guys can't. So we have to actually tube feed them. Look at all these faces. Now this is what we want to see in our rehab animals. We want a healthy fear of people, because at the end of the day, not everyone loves animals like you and I do. There's not so many nice people out there, and there are people that love animals but then get worried if an animal starts approaching them. So we want to make sure that we handle them as less as possible to make sure that they are releasable back into the wild, which is kind of neat. Well, this one's just sleeping away the day. Now earlier I was mentioning about the stages of wildlife rehabilitation. So when the babies come in and they can't regulate their temperature, what we do is we put them in the incubator, and then juveniles move into a larger cage where they can start building their muscles. And then the final stage is they go outdoors into a large enclosure where they can do things that normal opossums or normal species would do. So for example, squirrels, they actually have to squirrels have to be able to hang upside down, crack a nut, and their tail has to be big and bushy and curl up over their back. opossums have to be able to, you know, crunch on bone, hang and build their nest using their tail. So there's lots of things, and that's why it does take so long going through the rehabilitation process itself. And someone's saying, what a cute little knitted pouch. We have had so many people from all across Canada mailing us these fantastic pouches. When there was the wildfires out in Australia, there was an overwhelming response of people that are really crafty. I am not one of them. And that they were then sending them out to Australia. And then when COVID hit, we weren't able to, or they weren't able to send them off anymore. But they could send them to us. So we have taken thousands of knitted nests. This one here is a specialty because it is not only a pouch, but when it hangs inside of the cage, it's got a little nest on top. So the apartment these guys are hanging out in, which is kind of neat. So I'm going to put them away because Nicole has another creepy crawly, as I like to call them, before our big finale. And I have to tell you guys, the people at Blue Mountain Village were so excited when I told them what our last animal was going to be up for the day, because everyone always waits for this. When we come out to the village and do our presentations, people will sit through all of my bad jokes and everything just to see this creature. So you have to hold on a little bit longer, because after this guy, I've got something so special for you.
Okay, so one last snake for you guys to see today. This is actually one of our northern water snakes, Doug, and a little bit different than Simon. This guy has scales that are more together than Simon's were. So Simon's are almost diamond shaped and they stick up, where this guy's are flat along his back. But water snakes, they live more on land than in the water. Who knew? So they have two different kinds of scales on their body. Their tummy is actually very soft, silky, and smooth, and the back is very rough, allowing them to move through both terrains very easily. They want to be able to swim well, and they want to be able to move around on land well as well. Now, Doug here is very young, very small still, lots of growing to do, but those colorful stripes on his body tell us that he is a northern water snake. So a lot of times you'll see them swimming around in the water and they might come up to you, but they're not trying to eat you, they're not trying to hurt you.
I have to admit something, Nicole. Snakes in the water is probably one of my biggest fears. The thought of swimming in a lake somewhere or a pond and having a snake, because he's very small. They're very young. These guys are what, just about a year old. So by the time they are, you know, a full adult, they're like 4 times bigger than this. And so the thought of swimming somewhere in an area that we're not meant to swim, we're terrestrial creatures. Swimming is not my forte, and having a big snake like that swimming in the water next to me, honestly, is my biggest fear. But so you're telling me that it's safe?
Yeah, he just wants to use you as a raft. That's all.
I don't want to actually hear that. I don't want to hear that at all. This is awful.
He just wants a break. He gets tired of swimming too. Just like we can't swim constantly, neither can these guys. So they'll often find a log or a rock or something to take a break when they're out for a swim. And they'll like to hang out on there and rest up before continuing on with their swimming. Now these guys do have a diet of fish here at the center. Very natural, very similar to what they would eat out in the wild too. So these guys do really enjoy getting fish. Might be pieces, but it's still close to what they would have in the wild because it's important, just like all of our animals here at the Wildlife Center.
Perfect. So why don't you go put that water snake down? And I'm going to just zip over here quickly because I don't know if you guys can hear in the background. We have this little peep, 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 peep noise. So I just slid them out of the way for right now while we were doing our presentation. But last night we had 8 little ducklings that are about 2 days old dropped off. So they with us until they're about 5 or 6 weeks old, and then they're going to go back into the wild. Now we have them covered off because birds are very finicky and they don't want to see, but you see what we have in there? See those feather dusters? Those are so important because it kind of acts like mom. At nighttime they'll snuggle up underneath them to make sure it's going to give that mom feeling, gives them a sense of comfort. And you'll notice that in here they don't have a large water they only have small little water dishes, and that's because when they're with their mom out swimming, it's a lot different than being at the wildlife center itself. So it's safer for the first week until they hit about 2 weeks. Then they can move up and upgrade into almost like a little mini pond. And then by the time they're 3 weeks, they're outside, they're swimming, they're eating bugs, and they're getting everything that they need to do. Now, Nicole has the last animal, and you guys have been waiting forever. We're going to walk out of here. Whew. All right. Goodbye, everybody in here. We will see you later because we got a surprise happening out these doors. Doo, doo, doo. Now we have to make sure we close all the doors always behind us in case there's an escaped animal. And oh my goodness, Nicole, what in the world, or who in the world is this?
This is Floki.
Hi, Floki. Does anyone know what type of animal Floki is? Okay, how about this question? Has anyone been out to Blue Mountain Village and seen our presentation and seen Floki's cousin? Now, his cousin is only the size of a house cat, and they can take down something that is 8 times their size. So that is like a full-grown house cat taking down a white-tailed deer all on their own. Who's got a guess for me? Floki's cousin. He's got these little pointed ears. All right, we're going to tell you. He's a Canadian lynx. Now, Canadian lynx are designed to live in all different types of climate, but they thrive in the cold or in the snow. I want you guys to take a look at his little pads on his feet here. They act just like snowshoes walking on top of, yeah, isn't that cool? Walking on top of the snow. So instead of pushing through, they can walk on top, which make them ultimate. These really big ears right here also have a great sense of hearing. So when they're hunting, they're able to find that prey. The combination of their ears and they walk on top, they can actually detect small mice, rodents running underneath the snow, and they can jump up, leap, and catch them. Now their biggest prey source in the wild is the snowshoe hare. Hi, Floki. Nicole, do you want to talk any more about Mr. Floki here?
Oh, Floki. So this guy, unlike our bobcats, his tail actually ends in black in color, so that's one way you're able to tell them apart. Bobcat and lynx are very closely related in the cat family, but these guys, Mr. Floki, he's gonna have paws that are so huge, just like Steph said, we're walking on top of the snow. His ears are gonna have longer tufts on top of them than the bobcats are gonna have. He'll have extra fur around his face, and of course, that little tail. Now, did we cut his tail?
No.
Of course not.
Everyone always asks us that question.
This is the little nub of a tail that he was born with. So that's his little fluffy bum right there. But he's getting a lot of energy. He's finally starting to climb around a lot more, showing us what a super cat he's going to be.
Now, Floki is actually only a few weeks old. His eyes are still not completely focused. If we look at his eyes, they're not going straight forward. They're still just starting to open. His ears were folded. They're not fully extended right now. So as he gets older, a lot of the features that you see in the adult cats aren't, they're not, well, right now they're not exaggerated like they're going to be. And he makes these awkward little meowing noises. He gets his bottle every 3 hours. He gets specialty milk. And lots of people think that you can offer him kitten milk, but you can't. He actually gets dog milk with a whole bunch of different supplements in it because the milk composition for lynx is very different than what you would think for a cat or a dog or a domestic cat or dog, which is kind of neat.
Now, is he going to roar when he's older?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. Does anyone know if bobcats or even lynx, if they roar? Do they roar?
They do not. So these guys are an example of cats who can purr or cats who do not roar. And you're not going to be able to hear it, but I can. And he is just a little purr machine right now, making his little rattle sounds in my ear.
He's very cute. Well, Floki, you did a great job ending our show. I want to thank you for coming out today and meeting the world and all of our friends at Blue Mountain Village. Just to kind of wrap everything up today, I want to thank Blue Mountain Village for having us and promoting the idea of dreaming today and visiting later. I'm sure as soon as everything becomes safe, we will be back at Blue Mountain Village with all of our animal ambassadors. And we want to thank all of our frontline workers, because without you guys and battling day to day, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we're doing here. So again, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my bad jokes. I am sure we will be back again, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Bye, baby Floki. Say goodbye.